Hey, good morning, everybody, Starseeds, friends, family. Um, I am here to talk with you this morning about something called the Crucify and Exile program. So, what is that? What is this program stuff? You may have heard me talking about it in past videos, but basically, what I'm talking about is the thought paradigms that we learn and are taught by society, our family, our friends, those people at the tippy top that maybe want to control what we think. Um, I believe intentionally instill these programs in, or some people call them mind viruses or false matrix thinking. These paradigms or thought processes that don't help us but actually hurt us. So, part of what I do is work to rewrite those programs, so to speak. So, if you think of your mind as kind of like a computer running different software programs, then you can delete or rewrite or override. So, why is this important? Well, if you have studied or worked with or heard of the law of attraction, or that thoughts create reality, or that we can use our thoughts and our vibration and our emotions and our energy to affect our environment, then you really realize how important it is to be very intentional and some would say meticulous about the thoughts that we think, the words that we speak, the feelings. Pay attention to your feelings, they're there for guides. So, back to this Crucify and Exile program. This is one of the most, I think, deep seated programs. It's very insidious, it's everywhere, and there's so many examples of it. So, think about, you can go back to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, the slavery, the concentration camps. Those are big examples of the Crucify and Exile program, but we also do it every day to ourselves and to each other in little microaggressions, if you will, but sometimes they're not so micro, right? Someone shows an ugly side, someone has a bad day, someone crosses a line, hurts your feelings, or is mean, or just, is out of alignment, is in distortion, the different ways of saying it. And so then our programming, what we kind of do, because it's kind of in our DNA, right? We're biologically even programmed to be on guard and looking for dangers. So what has happened for a variety of reasons, which I'm hoping to talk about, is we get kind of trigger finger, right? We're kind of maintained in this hyper fight or flight state. And so when something offends us or hurts us or scares us or triggers us, we react, and we tend to want to crucify and exile that person, that trigger, that scared us or hurt us. Now, this is all a continuum, right? Of course, if someone is really in distortion and really hurting you, you have to stay safe and put up boundaries and these kinds of things. So it all comes down to your discernment and taking a moment to, might be more than a moment, to think about, am I crucifying and exiling this person because of programming or because I need to stay safe? So those are really important nuances in this conversation. And one of the reasons that I do these talks and I put myself out there in the community, even though I'm a super introvert, is because these conversations are important. These nuances are important. Thinking about these things is how we co-create heaven on earth. It's how, or some people would say, evolve the collective consciousness of humanity. So if we want to be on the leading edge of thought, then we are going to be having these kinds of nuanced, in-depth discussions and questioning the paradigms, right? It's all about questioning the paradigms. So the Crucify and Exile program, let's see, what else can I tell you about that? I have some notes here. So the consequences of this Crucify and Exile program, let's talk about that for a minute. it keeps us in fight or flight. If we're always afraid that we might say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, and then the community is going to crucify and exile us, then that keeps us kind of maybe even subconsciously a little bit fearful to do things, to put ourselves out there, and to say things that might be controversial, and these kinds of things. So it keeps us in the fight or flight state, which is really the bad guys at the tippy top. That's really their number one goal, right? To keep us in fight or flight. And they do it in so many ways, not just through this Crucify and Exile, but through any number of ways, right? Turn your TV off. That's the number one way they keep you programmed and in fight or flight. So that's the best advice I could probably give anybody. Turn the TV off. But what else? So it keeps us in fight or flight. It keeps us divided and then they can conquer us. They want us divided. That's, I guess, their number two goal is to keep us divided, in fight or flight and divided. And so if we're crucifying, if we're cutting this one off because they did something that we didn't like or weren't in agreement with, or we didn't like what they said here, or we cut this one off and then we cut that one off. Well, we're cutting people off left, right, and center all day long. That's what they have us programmed to do. Guess what? We're not co-creating heaven on earth. We're not co-creating new earth consciousness or evolved human consciousness. So, yay, they win, right? Not on my watch. So that's why I'm out here doing these things, to try and keep us together, because together we are so much more powerful. So we have to learn how to overcome this tendency, this program, this paradigm that we can sometimes find ourselves operating under that has us crucifying and exiling people. So some conditions that kind of allow this, I call it allow this program to run unabated. Some conditions that allow this program to live. And these are human conditions that we all have. One is arrogance. Or a better way of saying that is the idea that the self could not be wrong. The idea that we need to be right and blameless all the time. And this is a piece of this program, another program really, but the fact that we are scared or feel like it's shameful or humiliating to say that we were wrong, that we messed up, that we had a bad day, that we were in distortion, that we were not in alignment with Source. Guess what? Every single person, myself included, obviously, has days like this, has chapters like this, and some have lifetimes like this. But we all are human, right? None of us are ascended masters yet. So the idea being that it's okay to be wrong. I would like to I am working to normalize being wrong. Like, it's no big deal to say, ugh, I apologize. And I am trying to shift from I am sorry to I apologize, because the energetics there are a little bit different, right? So this is just kind of a little sidebar here. The I am statements are so powerful. We know this, right? So when you say I am da 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 da, sorry, well, we know the energetics behind sorry when you say it, how it feels, how it's been kind of infused maybe with feeling the idea like you're sorry, like that's a bad negative thing. But if you say I apologize, well, that's much more high vibe. That's much more like, I own it. I did something wrong. I'm a human being. I apologize. So just a little side note there of a way to kind of normalize this. We don't have to be right and blameless all the time. Another kind of condition that allows this program to run is short-sightedness. And that goes back to what I was talking about before. If we're cutting everybody off left and right and center because this one did that and that one did this, we're left alone. So that's a little bit short-sighted if you're trying to do big things, if you're trying to co-create something, like be on the leading edge of thought and co-create something new, heaven on earth, 5D kind of stuff. So short-sightedness, habit, wiring. We are all creatures of habit. This is part of the human avatar. And so the wiring in the brain likes to do what it's always done. And so if you're programmed from very early on to do certain things, if you see your parents do it, if you see it done on TV, then it's normal. That's what you think is normal. So we're just kind of creatures of habit. The wind is picking up here, so I don't know what that means. I think it's just morning and the temperature's changing a bit. What else? So habit. Reactivity, right? That's part of the fight or flight. So when I talk about reactivity, I just want to say some antidotes or things you can do instead of being reactive per se is about practicing the pause, letting the chemicals settle, and kind of removing yourself from the story or the program so you can kind of be that observer and kind of analyze it before you really react. And then the last of the conditions that kind of allow this program to run is that it's easier than looking at yourself, owning your own part, and just saying, oh gosh, I was out of alignment here. It's easier just to blame the others, right? Because of this, what I was saying before, all that associated guilt and shame and stuff. But when you can delete that, when you can not have that as part of it, then it's easier to say, oh yeah, like I said, normalize it. Oh yeah, I did something wrong, my bad. No biggie. It's never one-sided. We co-create every experience. We're not rookies. We know this, right? So we co-create every experience. So when you think of it that way, it's a lot easier to be like, let me think. What did I do? Oh, that's what I did. My bad. Okay. And then you have the opportunity to do better. And that's why it's so empowering. So I want to take a minute to talk about the conditions that allow for the new programming. Some people might call it, or I've called it, I'm sure others have, restore it to factory settings in terms of the mind viruses, like deleting all those, cleaning that, resetting it to factory divinity setting or something. Or, some people say getting the upgrades. So these are, you could also call them antidotes. So these are some of the things that you can do to prevent yourself from falling into the Crucify and Exile programs. Become curious. So that's one that I've been working on lately. It's just like, become more curious. Like, why is this happening? Why am I reacting? Why are they reacting? What's going on here? So often it's just a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. I thought you said this. I thought you meant that. I took it this way. I felt this way. And so open, honest communication in a safe environment is a huge antidote. And just becoming curious. Why is this going on? And then respect/honor. I was calling it respect, but I'm upgrading it to honor. So honor everybody. We are one, right? Honor yourself, honor the other. So honor yourself. Don't allow yourself to be triggered. Learn that skill of the pause and be and practice that in a very honorable way. And so you don't dishonor yourself by allowing yourself to be under the spell of emotionality or distortion. And then you honor the other because you're becoming curious and you're speaking to them in a space of, I honor you and I want to learn from you. So these are some of the kind of evolved human consciousness paradigms. Instant grace, I love. So this is something I've kind of been working with over the last few years and learning to practice. And I love instant grace because it takes the judgment piece out of it. Judgment is such a low vibe, kind of weighted down, dense feeling and emotion and thought paradigm that I'm trying to delete and discard. And so when you talk about, forgiveness, these kinds of things, then you're saying, well, I've judged you wrong and you need to be apologized so that I can forgive you. So I try to just delete all of that and call it instant grace. So grace is forgiveness without acknowledgement or merit or earning it or anything like that. You don't have to do anything. It's done. And it's a gift and it's done. And so that's what we are taught in a lot of religious teachings. And that's what feels good and right to me and helps us to stay together instead of divided. And helps us to feel safe instead of scared and in fight or flight. So the antidote, the biggest antidote to this Crucify and Exile for me, what I've found to be the most productive and helpful and comforting is, again, the I am statements, but to my benefit. I am safe, I am supported, I am loved, I am cherished, I am adored, I am celebrated, I am one with everything. And as I love the world loves me. And as I love myself, I love the world. So it's this atonement or at one-ment. I am safe, I'm supported, I am secured. So if you're having any situations where you're feeling crucified or exiled, I encourage you and invite you to practice these I am statements and then see how things change. And let me know. I'm curious. It'll be an experiment. So, wrapping up then, community, connection, and relationships. This is the medicine. This is where the assessments happen. This is where the teachings happen. This is the final exam. This is all of it in one. In other words, we can talk about these things from our home, from our privacy and solitude of our living rooms and our boxes. You've heard me talk about the boxes that we live in, and that's one thing. It's easy for me to sit here without any people around to tell me or trigger me to tell me anything I don't like to hear, whatever, and be high vibe. But when you go out into community, when you dare to be in a relationship with a friend or a family or a lover, that's when you're tested. And that's when, so I call it the assessment tool. The teaching and the testing all happens there. So it's so important that we connect, in community, that we connect with our friends, with our families, and with each other. And it's an opportunity to rewrite these programs on behalf of, for the benefit of humanity. It's one way we can contribute to evolving the human consciousness. So I invite you to do that with me. I thank you for listening and sharing, and I'm interested in your comments, and I wish you guys all the best out there in this crazy world, and thanks for being on the leading edge with me. If you're here watching this video, if you made it to the end, you are absolutely on the leading edge here with me, and I appreciate you and I love you, and I just send out all kinds of good high vibe love to everybody. So namaste.